Okay, I'd like to call this Finance Committee meeting to order. The first item is assignment for request for council action. For Finance, we have 17207 budget amendments, 17208 Guilford Boulevard Bridge property acquisition, 17209 purchase of 3 police SUVs and 1 Fusion from Lebanon Ford, 17210 expenditure Hall Public Safety Co. upfit for police explorers, 17211 renewal public defender contract, 17212 approved partner marketing sponsors for the MCRC, 17213 amending 3102E MCRC part-time pay scale, 17214 rezone 124 and 126 Harding Street from an R3 to a C3, 17215 expenditure to jet of fuel Medina Airport, 17216 amending code section 94304K internments, 17217 environmental engineer services Champion Creek multi-purpose path, 17218 modification number 1 to agreement with DLZ South Elmwood Bridge replacement. Streets and Sidewalks Committee, we have 17219 sidewalk installations, various locations. Mark Holzar. And Special Legislation Committee, 17220 amending the city charter to include term limits by Mr. Lamb. Okay, 17207 budget amendments. We have 2017-045 donation from Medina Sunrise Rotary.
Pass through, but we have to have you appropriate it to be able to spend.
Okay, $200. Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 7847 donation from Discount Drug Mart
Same thing.
for the bicentennial celebration.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 2017-044 donations for Main Street Medina and the Chamber
More donations need pass through.
for advertising, for,
Those
yes,
for the visitor guys.
visitor guide.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 7963 judgment entry funds for case management system.
This is funds in there, one of the court accounts they want to use for the case management system. I know you've discussed that with them in the past. This is the request.
Is there taking it out of 168, is that the computer technology fund that the court has?
Special projects.
Or is it special projects? I don't remember what 168 is.
Project was 169, but I could,
It's 187,500, so it's a large sum. Let's see. Two Medina Court special
Yeah,
project
from
accounts to purchase,
160
okay, yeah,
Says right there.
so the judge is ordering us to use this money to pay for that. So we have no choice.
So ordered.
It's so ordered.
Says right there.
Yeah, it says right there, it's so ordered. Yeah, 169, part of it come from it, and 168.
but the request only, he lists the two funds in the entry, but on the front sheet, they only list the one, the 168.
Well, yeah, it says, well, it's gonna be paid from 169 though, so I guess maybe we have to modify that, because it says it's being paid from 169, and it's gonna be reimbursed from 168. So if it's initially being paid from 169, we're gonna have to say it's coming from 169.
It looks like he wants us to take it out of 168 until they run out of money, and then move to 169.
Well, then, but the last paragraph says the total amount paid from shall be reimbursed from 168, so drain down 168, then use the rest from 169.
And then reimburse.
Everybody got that?
We'll have more on this later,
Okay,
put that all into place.
Move to approve.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 17208 Guilford Boulevard Bridge property acquisition. Mr. Patton.
Thank you. You might recall a recent council meeting, council authorized the fair market value estimate, which is basically the offer. We presented that, our right-of-way agent presented that to Mrs. McKee, the property owner. This is regarding the Guilford Bridge project. She accepted it, so now we bring it back to you and hopefully council this evening to accept the contract, authorize the mayor to sign it, and approve the payment of $1,635 to Mrs. McKee.
And Mr. Huber's approved it.
Sure.
Okay, sure? Mr. Huber, is that true? Is Pat saying something that's incorrect?
I have not seen this contract
Oh.
today.
Okay, so we'll make it subject to your review and approval.
Okay.
Move to approve with the law director's approval.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 17209, purchase of 3 SUVs and 1,
John, that's with the emergency clause, right?
was that with the emergency clause?
Supposed to the Guilford, because it's got a closing at
It did say,
12/1.
yeah, right down here.
Okay, can you do-
Yeah, I amend my motion to include the emergency clause.
Second, including emergency clause?
all in favor as amended with the emergency clause?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
17209, purchase of 3 police SUVs and 1 Fusion from Lebanon Ford. Chief?
This is to get us back on our vehicle rotation burden. We haven't purchased a vehicle since 2015. I'd like to purchase 3 frontline vehicles, and the Fusion would be a replacement for a detective bureau vehicle that is 150,000 miles on it.
And are you working on some kind of replacement plan after this, so that every year we're?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I think we wanted to try to do 3 a year. I think that was the goal.
Yes, sir.
Just so that it rolls off on a proper, because we have 27 vehicles total?
Frontline vehicles, we have 12 frontline vehicles.
Frontline, right, but I think
It's-
total vehicles. I thought we had,
I don't think we have that many.
am I thinking this other department? That's
No, we have
21.
27, we have a couple for,
21 vehicles.
21, okay.
My intent is to look at each vehicle, base it on the mileage and the maintenance program that we're on with it as well, make sure that it's not costing us too much money. But the preference would be 3 a year to maintain our schedules, so that we aren't going 2 years and then having to purchase a bunch of vehicles within that year.
Hmm. We have done 6 in 1 year. Is there any other questions?
Is this all part of the state bid process?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Move to approve.
Second.
He'd like the emergency plan.
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second, including emergency clause?
And this is all budgeted, of course, otherwise it wouldn't happen.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
All right, all in favor with the emergency clause?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. 17210, expenditure for hall public safety upfit for the police explorers. Chief?
This is the request for the finances to purchase the upfitting for our halls, public safety. They're the ones that will take the light bars, the sirens, and radios out of the old vehicles and put it in the new vehicles, the cage, light bars, sirens, radios, computer equipment.
And it costs about 10,000 a vehicle?
Yes, sir.
This is with the emergency clause.
Okay.
You said no.
I don't think we requested an
Right.
emergency
Okay.
clause for this one.
Oh, that's sufficient funds, it says.
Oh, okay.
It says yes, emergency clause is not checked.
Move to approve.
Second.
I do have a question
Yes.
with regard to the roughly 10,000 per car. I thought I heard you say we're taking the existing equipment in the current vehicle and moving it to the new vehicle. Well,
With the exception of 2 vehicles, everything except for the lights and the sirens. 2 of the vehicles we're rotating out, we're gonna hold in reserve for the specials.
Ah.
The issue we're having is with all the events we're having in town and on the square, for example, Candlelight Walk, we didn't have enough vehicles. So we're gonna take 2 of the oldest cars, maintain the lights, the sirens, so that we can hold them in reserves for the specials to use during those events throughout the city.
Okay, so this is to purchase new and move as appropriate?
Yes, sir,
Okay.
that's correct.
All right, thank you.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 17211, the renewal of the public defender contract. Mr. Huber?
State law requires that we enter into an agreement with the county public defender's office for representation of indigent defendants. This contract is identical to the contract we maintained for the last, I think, 6 to 7 years since state law required this. This takes us through the 2018 year.
Questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 17-212, approved partner marketing sponsors for the MCRC. Mr. Wright?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the first of the 5 sponsors in their ads from the sponsorship program that we asked to look into almost 3 years ago. These were already approved through the RAC and the school board, rec advisory on the 16th and the school board on the 22nd. There was a 6th sponsor, which was Akron Children's Hospital. The Cleveland Clinic was asked if this sponsor would be okay, and they said that it would not, and named Akron, Summa, and University Hospital as 3 others that they wouldn't like to see advertised at the rec. So we're going to continue to run these ads through them to make sure that it's not going to conflict with our partnership with them.
So the attached are the ads that are going to be used?
Yeah, the ones attached are the ones that were approved.
And
That's exactly what those are.
can you disclose the amount of money or sponsorship?
Yeah, so far it's like $3,524. That's with the split and everything, the expenses taken out, plus the split,
Mhm.
70-30 split with partner marketing.
Is that per or total?
Total so far, but that's 5 sponsors, so.
Do you think it should be more?
Well,
I think we should have a sign on everything.
that's early. Put one on
Thanks.
Huber's
Put one
back.
on the floor.
We'll put one on your card then.
All right, any other questions on that?
Say that again. How much each?
It's $3,500 total. I have a breakdown of it, but one of the ads is just for the 50-50 split, because it's 1 year, or 2 years, and then, or 1 year for 2 of them, and then the other 3 are a 3-year deal, and that's the 70-30 split for the 3 years. So it ends up, it's like 8,200 revenue, total revenue, and you subtract out the expenses. The net revenue is split between partner marketing and us for the 50-50 and the 70-30, comes out to about $3,500 so far, which goes straight into the capital fund.
And these will be posted where again?
These are all banners for the track railing, and then there's 3 overhead bulkheads, which are on top of the track. These are the big soffits that you can actually see from the concourse.
Mhm.
So 2 of those were purchased.
How did we arrive at that cost?
You approved the brochure 2 months ago that had those costs in there, of what he was gonna charge for banners and track railings and everything else. That was in the brochure.
It seems kind of cheap.
Considering that's 1 banner for each, it's really not that much. It's just printed and hanging on a railing. The other things should be larger. He's looking for like a full sponsor for the field house.
It would cost you more than that, I mean, to run an ad in the newspaper
Mhm.
once. But I guess we approved it. Didn't realize we did, I
Well, we can always revisit that.
guess. We could.
I guess that's I guess the banner, and how big are these banners again? Did you say 6 feet by 2 feet? What did you say?
3 foot by 8 foot.
Oh, 3
The
foot by
ones
8
up on
foot.
the bulkheads. In fact, the one's almost, I think it's a 3 by 10 or 3 by 12 on the bulkheads. They're pretty big.
Those are huge.
Well, the split, remember, we only get 30%, so 70%
But
was losing.
still, I mean,
We get to 70.
Oh, we get to 70, they get to 30.
On a 3-year contract.
Hmm.
He said this is just the first 5, so we'll look forward to more.
Well, I think we should maybe, what I'm hearing is revisit a little bit. I mean, I guess the early bird gets the worm, so to speak, or maybe if going forward, if the other things need to be raised to have more money, get more money.
Yeah, I mean, it's early in the process, so
Yeah, and
give it time.
ideally, it's a 3-year contract. If we decided after the 3 years we didn't want to use partner marketing anymore, we could look at doing it ourselves.
Mhm.
We have a signed company and, do 100%.
Okay.
Move to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 17-213, amending MCRC part-time pay scale. Mr. Wright?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a request, which we do every year to adjust for the minimum wage, which is going to go from $8.15 to $8.30 this year. So unfortunately, we have to do this. We will have to request the emergency clause since it is mandatory for 2018. So.
I don't know if we need to, okay, because it's not going to be voted on until next council meeting.
Right. Move to approve with the emergency clause?
Second, including emergency clause.
Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 17-214, rezone. Well, this is just kind of a discussion because we have to have a public hearing on this. Rezoning of 124 and 126 Harding Street from R3 to a C3. Jonathan?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. As you, in your packet it outlines, the Planning Commission reviewed a request by the owners of 124 and 126 West, or 124 to 126 Harding Street, from R3 high-density residential to C3 general commercial. In your packet, I have provided the Planning Commission recommendation from the November 9th, 2017 meeting, the draft Planning Commission meeting minutes, and the staff report and packet. Basically, going through my analysis, I did recommend a rezoning of the properties due to the particular nature of this very unique area of the city and the transitional nature of the of the site. The benefit to the immediate intersection to both sets of properties. So the applicant requesting the rezoning, these two properties are immediately adjacent to the east of their existing business of Town Auto Sales at the corner of Harding and North Court Street. Rezoning of these properties would help would meet several of the land use goals and guidelines of the goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan, and also provide better market viability for the properties going forward, as the existing property that has the Town Auto Sales unto itself, even with the land taking for the road widening, it's probably not as viable into the future value-wise for commercial development and use. Alternatively, the viability of the houses for residential occupancy at that immediate intersection, which has a lot of activity, a lot of commercial activity, is not ideal for residential use. So rezoning the two parcels to be consistent with the existing parcel at the corner is reasonable to, create a better viability for these properties into the future and to be a benefit to the community. Planning Commission did recommend approval after reading my analysis and testimony from the property owner and the applicant. They recommended approval for the rezoning, and he's here before you this evening. Mark Powers is here. He's the applicant and owner of all three properties, the two under rezoning and the existing Town Auto Sales site. So he's here to provide any additional information, additional input or questions that you have.
I guess the question is, I'm trying to look at the map and I can't tell. From our comprehensive plan, what does the comprehensive plan say the rezoning of this area is gonna be?
The comprehensive plan, the future land use map has it designated as residential medium density. So it's a kind of medium shade of yellow. So that's a tool that's used in a lot of instances for rezoning of properties and as a guide for future land use.
And I think at the corner here, somebody bought that property and I think they're flipping it. The house on the corner, there's a blue house now, I think, that they're doing it. The corner of North Broadway and Harding.
North Broadway, yes. Right, yeah.
So that's gonna be
approved.
a single-family residential house?
It is.
And so what's gonna happen here? These houses are gonna be torn down, the ones that are next to it?
The intent, as I understand it, would be expansion of the auto sales use on
So it'll be-
those sites.
Mark?
Well, I see where Jonathan's going with that, and I know Planning Commission approved it unanimously, but I have concerns about the property that's adjacent to the one that John just spoke of. Because you have the residential there, and then you have the properties on North Broadway that are residential. And, one of my pet peeves is that transition, where we're putting commercial right next to residential. And what are we doing to provide a buffer there? And because that smaller of the two parcels, which is, I guess it would be 882, backs right up to a property that's on North Broadway there at 884 or 833 North Broadway. I mean, you're taking away, I think, a quality of a residential area with that one parcel. Now, the one that's right next to the auto, I'm fine with, but once you get deeper into Harding Street and you have that residential commercial conflict there, I'm struggling with that smaller parcel, because I think you should, try to provide somewhat of a buffer. Now, that one in particular will be right next to commercial, but at least the property on the corner and the property that would be to the south of the corner lot would still have somewhat buffer to their north side. Obviously, their west side's commercial, but it still gives them, I think, a little bit of buffer compared to having, whether it's an auto dealer or any other type of commercial that's allowed there, right up next to their home.
Well, what's the expectation of the use of the parcels?
We would like to put in a 4 or 5 bay service garage. We'd like to expand our sales cars with the losing of the corner from the Department of Transportation. They say we're between 5 and 6 car spots, and they, according to their appraiser, that put us below a feasibility of being a car lot. So we looked at it as an opportunity to do more of our own service work. We kind of stopped doing most of our service work over the last couple of years, and we remodeled the inside of the other 2 car bay that's on Town Auto Sales, and we started using it more as a showroom or a place to put cars inside. And we feel that giving us the opportunity to expand our business will help us do a better job of servicing customers' cars and just be more efficient with what we do. And right now, we're sending them all over the city to get service.
The question I have, Jonathan, is what does the code provide for, and I haven't looked it up, with respect, Mark brings up the buffering between the residential, because there's a lot of rentals here. I don't know if the corner house is gonna be a rental, they're gonna sell that for a single-family residence, or they're gonna rent it out, I'm not sure, but I think they're redoing the whole thing, they've done a lot of work there. What is the buffering requirements between the residential and the commercial in that area?
Yeah, so between a C3 and a commercially zoned, a C3 district and a residential district, for the rear yard setback, the minimum required, and due to the configuration of the future development site, the rear yard is actually the east side of 126 Harding, which would be immediately to the west side of the house that's being redone currently at Broadway and Harding. The rear yard setback for the principal use and structure is 30 feet minimum, and 20 feet for any accessory building. Additionally, a side yard, so that would be the south side of the subject properties that we're talking about. The side yard setback is 75 feet for principal uses and structures, and 25 feet for, and then part of that 75 feet, at least 25 of it has to be basically a landscaped screen buffer.
Well,
So that's
how deep-
just the setbacks, so just, and then we get into the screening and buffering requirements of chapter 1149.
They'll go in front of BZA.
And it requires significant screening between commercial and residential districts. So for a commercial land use adjacent to abutting a single family or 2-family residential district, you have to either do a 5 to 6 foot high fence, and then between the fence and the wall, the fence or wall and the property line, you have to provide a permanent plantings, or you can do 10 feet of distance and then have to put a substantial, site blocking row of evergreens in that buffer area between the property line and the active use of the property. So there's a significant amount of setback on the when you get into development standards of the use of the property, regardless of whether it's a retail store or an auto sales or an office building, you'd have to have all these setbacks. So that helps mitigate a lot of those direct impacts that are physically adjacent.
But the property owner could go to the BZA and ask for less,
They could.
which happens.
Happens a lot, yep.
Okay.
There's no guarantee of approval within that process.
Well, I understand what Mark's saying, and I do want to make sure that there are things done to eliminate some disruption from a residential area. But personally, I'm excited for you. This gives you a great opportunity to expand a very successful. Have you owned that the entire time it's been there?
30 years.
30 years.
29, actually.
It's been a successful dealership for quite some time, and with the street project, eliminating some of your spaces, I can understand your concerns. I'm just excited it gives us another individual business that's going to offer service for vehicles, let alone purchasing used vehicles. But I think it's well needed. I'm excited about it, and I would hope, and I'm sure that you will do everything you can to provide, if it does pass, provide the buffers that would protect the residents to your east and to your south, so.
Jonathan was very clear that we need to do a good buffering.
Right.
I have no intentions of going to BZA, to be perfectly honest with you. I want it to look nice when it's done. My goal is to spend the money to remodel when it's set and they're done making a mess of the front, because I want to take advantage of, when it's done, it's going to look nice.
Right.
In the middle, it's not a lot of fun right now.
Now, I do have one more question, if you don't mind, Mr. President. Do you own the corner of Lake and Lafayette? Is that your business? Somebody had told me that it was the same owner.
No, it's not.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So when you talk about the property that you lost, was that right-of-way property, or was that easement? They got an easement on your property?
It was right away, and basically, they needed the corner that was at point to be able to get trucks through, so they peeled. I lose 20 feet at the farthest distance, okay? It's not a very big parcel to begin with, but I lose 20 feet at the farthest distance. But it's a radius, okay, so it goes to like 3 feet on the perimeter of each of my corners, and then if you draw that radius, I lose 20 feet is the worst part. So that whole corner is gone when I'm done. The downside is I lose the 20 feet. The positive side is the radius is going to be more attractive. You know.
But the 20 feet that you lost was right-of-way?
Yeah.
It wasn't part of your
No.
parcel? I want you to be...
No, it was part of my parcel.
Yeah, it was part of your parcel?
Yes. Oh, yeah, I lost 20 feet of my property.
Okay, that was my
20 feet
question.
of my, I'm sorry, 20 feet of my property. I lost. At the toughest spot, though. It's not fair to say it's 20 across the whole thing. It's radius.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so it goes 20 at the worst, and then tails it.
I'd want to think about it, because I think it's a little disingenuous to, I mean, I appreciate, Mark, what you said, but Harding Street on the south side is 100% residential, is almost 100% residential, and Harding Street in total has got to be about 99% residential. I mean, it's the, it's the corner, it's the drug mart, it's the bowling alley, it's the bicycle shop, and whatever. All the rest of Harding is residential. And, I mean, I don't know, have we talked to people, have we talked to people that live in that area? The people that are...
We did not talk to anybody. We provided newspaper or letters, notice letters to all adjacent property owners.
Property owners?
Property owners, yes.
Right.
But those are rentals around, except for the one that was just purchased.
Well, rentals, though, are impacted.
Mhm.
If you're living in a rental or you're living in an owner-occupied house, you are impacted by whatever impacts you is the same.
Mhm.
It's not second-class citizenship.
Mhm. Jim, welcome.
Sorry.
Any other questions? This will go to a public hearing, and then it'll come, to council after that. Anybody else have any questions that want to be
I
answered?
just
or-
want to clarify Jonathan's comment there. No one spoke either for or against this rezoning at the planning commission meeting, other than Mr. Powers. Okay. So the property owners weren't there to address that.
So, was there anybody in attendance at the meeting, Paul?
Yes, there were other people. Reverend Brown from another part of town was there, and he was just there to observe. That's all.
Any other questions? All right, thanks for your input, and we'll move it on to the public hearing. I think it's the next thing. Okay. 17-215 expenditure for Jetta Fuel, Medina Airport. Mr. Huber, is this you? Or is this Keith?
I'll do it.
This is to cover purchase of jet fuel. It's more than we spent last year. We have to have enough in case we sell more or the price goes up. If it's more than that, we'll be back to let you know.
Where are we at on paying the tanks off?
It's gonna take a long time. I mean, I have it, but we,
Well, when you say a long time, I mean, when we originally talked about it, what was our window? 5, 10 years? Was it
I thought it was 10 to 15.
10,
Yeah.
15?
I mean, at the rate we're going now, I'm not sure we're even gonna make that, but, we're just working away at it as we go.
Can you get those
I
numbers
can
by
get it.
council maybe?
Other questions?
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 17-216, amending code section 94304K, internments. Mayor, is this you?
Yes.
Or is this- okay.
Mr. Pacoli's not here, so, what we found, we had a situation where, an internment, needed to be done on a Friday, but because of, Veterans Day, which was Saturday, the city recognized the holiday on Friday. And according to our code, no internments are permitted on Sundays, legal holidays, or holidays observed by the city of Medina. Therefore, it couldn't be done on Friday because it was the observed day. It couldn't be done on Saturday because it was the holiday, and it couldn't be done on Sunday. There are a variety of other allowances within the cemetery code that permit the service director to have some ability to mitigate situations such as this. And we're just respectfully asking that as situations arise, and it's in the best interests of the public and our staff, I mean, we're gonna have to pay overtime. Other times when we keep people over for these things, it's really no different. We're not paying them any more than.
Well, that was my question. Do we get reimbursed then if they do it on a holiday? Because usually you know it's a holiday when you do it, because all the funeral homes should know when the holidays are, and they schedule them, right? I mean, I don't know
Right.
if other people, so do we
So-
get
so
reimbursed that
that's-
money then?
That's why they selected the Saturday, because it was or they selected the Friday because the Saturday was the holiday, but unbeknownst to them, it was also the day that recognized as a holiday. So in this case, because the holiday was Saturday, we recognized Friday.
Mhm.
If the holiday was Sunday, then we would recognize Monday. So they weren't aware of that extra day being added in there. It is extra, in 94304. Were they provided this or not? I think Jansen gave me this late. Afternoon on Sunday, after 12 noon, Saturday or Sunday, or court ordered, it's an increased fee. And what Jansen is requesting is that we just add to that same list, Saturday, Sunday, or court order that, as authorized by the service director for these special things. So we will get the higher fee if we change that code as well.
And do we have to change that separately than this, or do we do it all at once, or how are we doing that? That's the question.
We'd like you to do it at the same time.
All right, so I think I remember reading, I think it's an email that we received. Let me go there.
It's this.
Because I understand the situation that comes up, but I guess if there's a scheduling thing on the funeral homes that do that, and if it's an extra cost, I guess it's an extra cost, because again, if we have to have people come from the city who are have to get paid time and a half or holiday time, I mean, we shouldn't have to absorb that. That should be paid for, I guess. I mean, does everybody agree with that, or do you think we should absorb it? And it looks like it's about $100 more. Well, for an adult, $100. Cremation section, it's $150 more. Baby section, it's $150 more. And crypt sealing, it's $150 more. Everybody okay with that? Because I think that's what covers our cost then, correct?
Yes, sir.
So what we'd probably want to approve is not only the modification to 94304K, but also a modification to the fee schedule by including including the fee modification based upon that, right?
Yes, sir, which is 943.11 is the fee schedule.
I make a motion with the emergency clause then to modify 943.04K regarding internments, and then also 943.11 regarding the fees.
Second, including the emergency clause?
Any discussion on that? Why do we need the emergency clause?
Oh, we don't need it.
Just carried over from the
I don't
previous
think we need
RCA.
it.
Oh, no emergency clause.
Oh, it was on there.
Explanation.
Oh, it is? Oh, then maybe we do.
It was on there.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Jim, I think that was a carryover from the insurance. If you read the explanation of it, it talks about insurance terms. So I think she just used one of the blanks and
Okay.
didn't get that off.
Copy
We
and paste
don't
gets you
need
every
it.
time.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, we do not need the emergency clause.
I'll make my motion without the emergency clause then.
Thank you.
Second, including.
Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 17217, environmental engineer services for Champion Creek Path. Patrick?
Thank you. This is the project that will extend our multi-purpose path on Broadway to Smith Road and over on Smith from Broadway to Court. From there, we're also adding bicycle lanes on South Court Street, south towards Sturbridge. Project is being funded primarily through an ODOT grant. As such, we have to follow their rules. We've designed everything in-house so far. We tried to get the environmental clearance on our own. We found out a couple weeks ago that ODOT is requiring us to hire a certified environmental consultant to complete the clearance. They wouldn't accept us as that. So this is for that work. It is the last thing we're gonna need in order to bid the project. A couple things I would note. When I submitted the request, the lowest proposal I had was a little over 19,000. Later that same day, I did get another proposal from a qualified consultant for 10,200. So we're gonna lower the request from 19,215 to 10,200. And in our original grant application, we had budgeted about 23,000 for engineering design services. To date, because we did the work in-house, we've only spent a little over 4,200, and that was for surveying. So adding this to that cost, we're still well within budget for the design services.
John, there are some clauses in these contracts that need to come out.
So subject to law director
These
approval.
contracts need to be changed.
The question I have is, when you talk about these bike lanes, we talked about this a lot, what's actually gonna physically be located on South Court Street?
So it's a frustrating thing to us. 90% of this project is sign and pavement marking. Couldn't figure out why we need to do an
So no, like,
environmental review.
Those plastic cone things that line?
No, this would just be the pavement marking. 2 5-foot lanes, one on each side, designate with, the appropriate bicycle designations down the street. There's a lot of signage that goes involved with it. There are some streetscape items on Court Street between Lafayette and Smith, and there will be the physical path, the multi-purpose path, asphalt path from where that is it Cups Cap? What's the name? Spokes. From there, north to Smith, and then west on Smith Road.
Well, that's when Smith Road is gonna be redone, that'll.
Correct, yeah.
Now-
Yeah, we're doing this project, we're actually doing in 2 separate projects. We'll bid this, the actual, when we do the Smith Road reconstruction next summer, we will do that multipurpose path as part of that project. It's the way it had to be done.
Now, if it's 5 foot on each side of South Court Street, what's the distance that the cars can travel on that? I mean, what's the width that's left over for
It
them?
varies, but they are standard width lanes, I wanna say it's 36 to 38 feet, so you're taking 10 foot off basically that. The standard width lane is 12 foot, so we're in excess of that.
Now, are parking for residents along Court Street
It
then?
will not be parked on Court Street.
I don't think you allow that currently, you gotta park on the side streets.
Yeah, some areas.
You can park in South.
Oh,
Yeah.
Some areas.
I thought you parked on the side street. Since you live there, what's your thoughts?
Actually, I wrote it down to ask about it tonight because I was hoping it would happen a couple of years ago. I think it's kind of long overdue.
Plans are done if you'd like to see them.
What?
The plans are done.
Yeah, no, it's good. I'm 100% in favor of it. I think the more we can do to connect these bike paths, get people in a safe way. I would prefer to have it, I don't know how you do it, but I've seen bike lanes that have been curbed.
Mhm.
Not with a curb like a street curb, but they have been curbed with like a rubber thing that's just raised up enough so that if you were to go over it with your car tire, you'd know you were in that,
Yeah, I'm familiar with that. It's called a quick curve.
Yeah.
It's a product that's available. It's something we could look into.
And it doesn't then it doesn't interfere with people that when you want to pull in your driveway, if you live there, you want to have something that's not a curb you're jumping over. But I think that smallest of, what did you call it?
Quick curve is kind of the commercial term. for it.
Yeah, that would be,
Plowing. Plowing's the only issue I think that comes up in the winter. How would you?
Yeah, there's an issue with plowing.
it would be an issue, but I think if you look at the safety of people on a bike, on a street with 10, I don't know, is it 10,000 cars a day, a
Probably in
week?
the ballpark there, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we'd want to certainly look at the impact on snow plowing, but I think that some sort of a raised curb would make it more likely that folks would use it. But yeah, I'm all in favor of it. I don't care about the, parking on that side of the street is
That'll be both sides, wouldn't it?
it's one side now, so it's just the east side where you can park now, so it would eliminate that, but there's, plenty of side street parking. I would rather have a bike path than have parking. I'm just one person,
You know I'm all about bike paths and having more bicycle-friendly options for people, but I mean, I do have, and I brought it up before, I have concerns safety-wise of having the bike lane. It's, I think it's a step in the right direction, but I wish we had more of a safety option here, to keep those, those bicyclists safe, because, I mean, those cars are doing 35, cars, trucks, up and down that road every day, and I just wish we had a better safety option the raised curb, that's the first thing that came to my mind. Plowing, that's gonna be an issue, but I wish there was something else that we could do on that stretch.
Well, the only thing I could think of you could do is you could always put those flower pots in the summer in the area, but then cars might be hitting them. Because then it'd be something big there.
No, I mean, that's, we gotta think about.
Yeah, I don't know if it would allow us to put that on the street.
Mr. President, tying in with Mark's, and tying in the tragedy in New York a few weeks ago, who's to say that somebody's not gonna say, oh, look at that group of kids, and just plow into them anyway, small curb or not? Okay, I really think with the way some people are in society today, I think we have to look at the whole bike path thing completely and look at, do we really want them on a major state route, on a major thoroughfare in the city? Do we want to take it off of Route 3, off of Route 18, and move them off to some side street someplace?
Well, I understand what you're saying, but we can't, I don't know if we can govern by fear, because
True.
that can happen anywhere, anytime.
Agreed, but can't we minimize it? If we took, okay, for example, if we would take them off Court Street and put them on Elmwood, for example, or further down, put it on, what's that, Cardinal, or, I forget the name of the street, Cardinal, Waterford, that street down there? That way?
Waterbury.
Waterbury, thank you. And take it along, it's parallel, it's heading in the same direction, and we're taking it off of the main street, out of the main traffic.
The only difference with those other streets, I think, is the width is a lot narrower than South Court.
True.
Excuse me.
Yeah, there's not enough room to have the bike lane in there, because the road itself is only about 24 feet. The residential road,
Yeah.
curb to curb. But we have sidewalks on those ones that you're talking about already, so the bicyclists, if they choose to, can be on the sidewalk and separated from the traffic. But whether we put the bike lane there or we don't, the bicycles are vehicles under Ohio law and have a right to be on that road, whether we prefer them to be or not, with or without the bike lane. So they could still be on there, whether we do this. Now, we applied for a NOACA grant with this plan, with these locations, because our idea was to tie our Champion Creek down through South Court Street to the Acme project, which has the path already in it. And then the only piece we have is from the north side of the Acme project to Sturbridge, which would take us buying some right-of-way or whatever to create a wider path just for those 2 blocks. But, and then once you get through the Acme project, it's not much of a reach to get onto the Chippewa Lake Trail and then connect with all of that. So the idea was to interconnect our trails with the county trails and try to find ways within the budget to create more opportunities for people, both from the city to go to the county and from the county to come into the city.
And I totally understand what Paul's saying as far as the safety aspect. And I agree with Mr. Lamb and Mr. Colasar that we should be able to come up with something that will, it may just be the signage on the pavement itself and the signage on the side. But I agree also with Mr. Quinn, we can't live in fear of something that could happen, may happen, and we all would feel horrible if it did. But it shouldn't prohibit us from providing access to people that want to enjoy that and make it as safe as possible. I mean, I look back at the pedestrian crosswalks on the square. There's not a day that goes by that people are not paying attention and aren't stopping for pedestrians. You know, so our choice would be not to have the crosswalks, you know, because of the potential.
Or have them lit.
Huh?
Or have them lit,
Well,
so
you-
they're not so dark at night, but,
Yeah, but I mean, I see just as many people during the day that don't pay attention to them also, so. But I mean, I do agree with Paul that we do have to, and again, in other areas where I've seen bike paths occupying the same space as traffic itself, where the signs, if the pavement signs are painted correctly, if you're paying attention, you do realize that that is a bike path, so.
For a lot of
I would support
citizens,
it,
yeah.
And one thing, because I've been looking at traffic, I've been looking at how do you, if you keep the speed limits are all the same, how is it that you can slow traffic? What can you do to slow traffic down? And it's interesting, but in the studies I looked at, the bike paths have that effect on traffic. When people see a bike path, even if there's no bikes, they tend to slow down. So bike paths kind of tamp down the speed people are going. So it has that extra benefit.
Unless they're in a hurry to get the handles.
Yes.
hey, Patrick, do you have any other suggestions on that Court Street issue that we could make it more bicycle friendly with this addition?
You mean,
Safety-wise, I mean, I'm not, my thing is that it's been before anything's happened, and I'm not doing this in fear, it's just basic, as a biker myself,
there are
just basic
those
safety.
quick curbs
whatever.
they come in a style available with delineators. That again is a nightmare for plowing. I'm not sure how that would work, but, and that you can drive through the delineator, it's not a hard obstacle. But that could provide some level of safety. I would know, if you look in Cuyahoga County, this is very common. From seeing communities, Cleveland, Lakewood, Westlake, they have these on some fairly busy roads, so it's not unique what we're talking about. It doesn't mean it could be safer, but it's pretty common.
All right, any other comments?
Yeah, just one. So Patrick, these quick curbs, are they removable for winter plowing?
I believe so. I would have to check into that, Mayor.
Okay.
I believe they're just bolted down. It would, all the way down Court Street, both sides, that's a lot of bolts on default.
And I worry about that too, if you're a bicycle and you just catch an edge of that, I mean, that could be,
Throw you out in the traffic.
yeah, I mean, seriously, I mean, it could be a little fishy,
I think they're
Ramp.
I think they're like this, though. I
Yes.
think they're like a curve.
Okay.
So not,
Yeah,
it's
it's
not a
not
high
like
edge.
square.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
not
but
like
still
square.
enough to catch a front.
But if you have that up and if they're not removable, the plows that would be
Oh, yeah,
plowing the
sure.
street would just be filling up the bike lane.
Yes, yes. Or tearing them off.
Right.
Yeah, because, I mean, sometimes with the snow, you can't, because the plow's so big and the truck's so big. you
Hopefully if
can't
the
actually see.
plows are out to plow the streets, people won't be using the bike bike lanes.
Right. Except with the weather we've had lately.
Well, yeah,
You know,
but they're not gonna be out plowing the snow.
That's
either.
true. We could maybe have year-round now with climate change.
Well, they also gotta understand the bike lane, only one time in the morning when they pick up the trash, they won't be able to really use it, because the truck will be there, picking up the trash in the bike lane.
Well, yeah, don't have to sit in the bike lane.
Well, I guess they could, well, I don't know if they wanna
they're picking up,
stop
they just
traffic.
Cruise through.
It's a minor issue, but it's an issue, I guess.
Yeah,
Good
and
point.
It's a couple minutes and it's once a week.
Hey, just to be clear, there's some very specific ODOT and federal regulations that govern these designs for these bike lanes, and we're required to follow those all. We're not just shooting from the cuff here.
We didn't think you were, but just raising concerns.
So is this for discussion, or?
Pat,
No, I think he wants
did you
to-
say you do have the plans now from ODOT, the design and everything?
We did the design.
But you, oh, okay.
We do have them, yeah.
Could you email, do you have them in a format where it'd be easy to, or is it so
I
big?
could, they're, I want to say it's about 35 sheets long.
Okay.
I'd be happy to, but it's big.
I can come up, I just want to see what it looks like. I want to see a couple intersections.
Sure.
All right,
Move to approve?
Second.
this is for the $10,200 one, correct?
The environmental
And
review.
subject to the law director's
Subject
approval.
to final approval of
Absolutely,
the law director.
absolutely.
Second, including the law director's approval.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 17218, modification number 1 to the agreement with DLZ South Elmwood Bridge. Patrick?
This is a project that we received a grant for a couple of years ago. We're trying to get it, push it forward. Based on comments we got after review of both the railroad and the state regarding our environmental issues, concerns, we would like to modify the original contract to add a little over $35,000 to the project cost. We are, just to let you know, getting a grant of $368,000 for this work.
So you're just trying to convince us to give $35,000 more.
I'm gonna try.
And what would that 35,000?
There's some additional, to get the environmental permitting to work in the creek, there's some additional hydraulic analysis needs to be done. In addition, we did allow Wheeling and Lake Erie to review this, because if you're familiar with the bridge,
Sure.
we'll be right next to their working rail bridge. And there's a couple of things in it that we think are good ideas that we need to do to make work for all, because it's going to be a 60 or 90-day project.
Thank you.
Pat, I think it was brought up before when we talked about this bridge. Are we gonna make any efforts to maybe preserve some of the structural stone that might be part of the old bridge that we could possibly use somewhere, utilize somewhere else?
Yeah, there is some, yes, we can. There's some original, for lack of a better word, called barnstone, I guess,
Mhm.
but it's part of the abutment that we can save. A lot of it's been, over the years, kind of mortared in place just to make it safer. So a lot of it's not very attractive, or anything, but
Mhm.
we can definitely save some.
Everybody okay?
Hmm?
35,000 more?
Yes.
Move to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. And last one is 17,200, we talked about this last time, credit card fees from the finance and IT department, which probably is gonna have to include a global credit card fees throughout the entire city, including the recreation center. Keith?
Well, I sent you the email today going over what we are spending. You might wonder why the percentage costs are different. The credit card companies charge a little bit less when the card is presented in person, because there's a little bit less of a theft risk on their end. I don't know that that really applies to utilities, because I can't imagine a whole lot of people use stolen credit card to pay utility bills. That seems like a pretty easy crime to solve. But nonetheless, that's a little bit less, so that's where we're at right now. That was, what I gave you there was 1 month, and then what the rec center does and what the court does are separate. I mentioned in the email, I'd asked Nancy about it after our meeting last time. She has a pass-through for the online, so if you are paying a ticket or something online, when you go to pay by credit card, you have to agree to pay the fees, so it passes through the person paying the ticket. But if you pay at the window, as of right now, they don't pass the fee on to the person paying it.
I don't
She
think
is-
you, I mean, she has some issues there.
She is looking to change that. She did say she's looking to change where to pass through the fees for credit cards on both. You asked about deposits. Otherwise, we aren't charged per check, we're charged bank fees monthly, so there's not a really comparable there. Checks are also, in the time that I've been here, our processing speed on checks that are mailed in has increased, and therefore our time expended on that has gone down pretty considerably. We used to do what was called a batch process, which where you work on that, you enter them into the computer, and then you do a batch of checks, and then you post those. Now we have a scanner, so those checks run through and are read by the scanner. It makes our processing of the mail considerably quicker than it used to be, so we're using a little bit less time with our part-timer than we used to.
But I guess the main issue is, you have a trade-off. If you, and I don't know if it's a concern or not, but in my mind, you wrestle with the idea, if you charge the fees for the credit card, where you force them to pay more by check, which costs us more money to handle the checks than people to pay by credit card, and what is the balance there? Do you just pass it on, and hopefully people don't say, oh, I'm just gonna pay by check to make it harder on us? I guess I don't know the answer to that question. I don't think, maybe people do that, maybe they wouldn't. I guess that's kind of the trade-off in my mind that I wrestle with, because we'd rather have it more automated because it's better for us. We want less checks. So we don't want to encourage people to pay by check, we want to encourage people to pay by credit card.
For us, the easiest thing for my office to process is the ACH people. A lot of people are signed up for that. That's where we automatically take it out of your checking account once a month. We still mail out a bill, but the bill just says this amount will be debited from your account on such and such day. That's really the lowest cost thing for us, because we never processed it. We don't have to process any checks. We just send one file to the bank that hits all of those, and we don't have credit card fees. We've got about 1,400 accounts that are on that, and I mean, that's our cheapest thing.
So we're not hit with any fees from the bank or the credit card company with the ACH?
The ACH is not a credit card, we're taking it out of an account.
All right, so we're not hit with any fees then?
No,
Okay.
so,
But, right, the other problem is though, if you don't charge back the credit card fees, then the rest of the tax-paying public's subsidizing the people who pay by credit
Well,
card.
So why don't we do this then? If with the ACH and we're not charging any fees for that, why don't we offer an incentive? That if you do that, you get a 1% reduction in your bill, or something like that, and we can kick that
For
over.
the ACH?
Yeah.
I don't know if we
This
want to do
way-
that, because there's 1,400 of those, and I guess the whole question is, we have to debate is whether or not how do you keep to encourage people to pay by credit card by not charging, now, think about it, everybody else charges people for credit cards, right?
in talking to the vendors, when Darren and I had that meeting, they said that their view was that most cities were passing, for utilities, were passing that charge on. It doesn't mean that we have to, but I did want to pass that along, that was his view, was that most of them for utilities.
And if it's a
were.
1%, how much do they charge, 1.5% you have in here?
It's not an exact percentage on those, but it works out to, I put it in the email, I think it was 1.9 for the in-person and a little over 2.
So for like a $40 fee, we're talking 40 cents.
About.
These numbers that you have here, were those just for the month of October?
That was one, we just pulled
Okay,
one
is that-
statement.
is that typical?
That's a pretty typical month.
Okay, so annually, we're paying about 13.3 in credit card fees.
But again, you gotta wait.
13,300. If this is typical, you take each of these numbers and multiply by 12.
The
Okay.
question I have is, for everybody, is do you think that by passing the fee through to the credit card payer, are they gonna be less likely to pay by credit card because they're gonna pay that fee? And they're gonna say, I'm gonna pay by check?
No.
Yes.
Well, it depends. It depends.
I pay
Yeah.
credit card and online payments on everything that I have, except for one, and it's Medina County Sanitary Engineers. That's because they charge a fee. I'll mail them a check.
I'm
And
the same way.
a lot of people pay online, when it first started, the reason they did it, not because of the simplicity, they want to spend 44 cents for a stamp to mail it in.
Or they can drop it off. But the question is, not only that part of it, but it's harder for us as a city to process and use manpower or people power.
It is,
to
but
do that.
like I said, I mean, we process checks today. That was much more true when I first became finance director than it is now, because the way we do checks now is a heck of a lot quicker and less intensive on hours, because we're running them through the scanner. Now, the scanner is gonna reject anything that it can't read, and so if you, as you're working that scanner, if it pulls one it can't read, it stops, and then you check it over. And there's things you check, but, I mean, it's not the kind of time we used to have in processing a check where you had a lot of manual entry. And the other thing that it's really helped with is the stub that people mail in with that check is read on the barcode. So there's no more data entry errors. We've had a few times where we posted a payment to a wrong account back when we were doing them by hand, because you're sitting there entering a bunch of accounts, you miss a digit. If you hit an account that doesn't exist, the computer tells you it doesn't exist. If you hit another account, it just credits the other account. We had that happen a couple times, and had to go back and fix it. It's not something that was, an everyday occurrence, but it happened once in a while. That hasn't happened because it's barcode, so those stubs are read off the barcode. It's getting the exact information that it should get. And the processing time's a lot less. As far as checks, I guess the thing is, when you talk about the time for the checks, the way my office works, we have a window that's open from 8 to 5. And so the people are here from 8 to 5 anyway. And check processing today, we can pretty much do within that window, within that time that they're covering the window, because on most days, the window is not so busy that that person is spending 8 hours at the window. And they're processing checks through that check scanner while they're covering the window. If somebody comes up, they step away from it and handle the person at the window and then go back. So I don't know, when you say it's more intensive, yeah, there is labor intensive to do the checks, but I don't think that I can show you a savings if all of a sudden everybody starts paying online. I still have to cover that window. So there's not a big savings for me to say, okay, well, I need one less person, because that person still has to be there for people who walk in.
Well, my opinion, because we're addressing the passing along the credit card fee. That's what this discussion's about. I would not have a problem with passing it along as long as the public's notified sufficiently. Then they have the option. They mail in a check, they can drop it off at the window, they can drop it off at the box.
When you say notified, what is your notification period?
I mean,
No, you're talking about online when they go to do it.
Oh, yeah, I mean, to notify that they're gonna be charged a fee, how long do you think they should have? Should we give them 30 days, 60 days, 90 days
Say 3 months.
to warm up? Or what?
I mean, just as long as they're aware of that there's gonna be a.
One day, call them right tonight and say tomorrow.
You can do that, why don't you list?
I'm just trying to ask to get you the time frame.
Next billing cycle.
That fast?
Most times they make changes to my things, you get about a 3-month warning, roughly.
Whereas,
Yeah,
well, first of all, what does everybody think about passing it through?
I think we should pass it through, because, I think you said it earlier, if you don't pass it through, who's paying for the fee? So if I'm writing a check, and the other guy's credit card getting passed through, I think I'm paying for his fee. I don't, that doesn't sit well, I don't think that's, I think we pass it through.
Pass it through. Pass it through.
Pass it through.
Pass it.
Same way I felt last time we talked about it, we charged the customer. 'Cause we're-
Okay, so now we got that, so now, the next question is,
You got it.
how long the lead time? Oh, are we talking about the rec center too? I think we are.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
Not to throw a wrench in it, but just more of a thing we've been talking about since the last 2 weeks, since we brought this up in the last finance meeting, was our sportsman program right now, we're looking at to see if it even allows us to let us do that extra charge and the fee. So say somebody buys a punch card and they want to charge it for $25 and the fee's 1.6% is what we pay. Is it going to be able to do $25.40 and then charge their charge card for that amount? We got to make sure that program will do it first. And two, if it does push people away from credit card processing and they want to use a check, we get a lot of NSFs and it could actually increase our costs for NSF. So just something to consider. Instead of doing it citywide, let us take a look at it first and make sure, one, we can do it. And
Well, I guess I'd rather do it all at once, but if we give you time to look at it, then we can implement it all at once. I mean,
Charge first of the year.
implementing it now, I mean, we've been doing it for, I don't know how long, another couple weeks, months, doesn't make a big difference.
okay, yeah, I mean, we're paying, we do about 1.2 million in credit card fees, so it's 20 to 30,000 depending at 1.6%.
And how hard would it be when the city, whether they're given a pamphlet to tell you what the rental fees are for the pavilions or their water bill, how hard would it be to add the credit card charge, credit card company's charge, will be passed on to you?
The hardest part about, well, the hardest part about adding it would be if we put an actual dollar amount, we'd end up having to change the stupid thing every time the credit card changes. So I think
yeah.
you're right, you said just the credit card fee,
Right.
as long as you word it that way, then I don't think it's really a
So they
problem.
know if they
And
use
it's
their
what-
credit card, there's gonna be a small fee.
Yeah, whatever we're charged.
Right.
We're not gonna add on to that, whatever we're
Right.
charged.
I just wanted to clarify that I think it's important we word it that way, because
Right.
that way, when it changes, we don't have to change whatever pamphlets we put out
I
there.
agree.
Well, I was just talking to Jim real quick here, thinking about what Paul said, is that if we could get the answers and figure it out by next council meeting, what we want to do, and if we implement it, we should give 90 days, seems fair. So you tell everybody effective on, whether it be then May 1st, since we may have to be passed in January, effective May 1st, all credit card charges that the city incurs will be passed through to the customer paying. That gives people plenty of advance notice, and we can put it in the water bills, we can get the word out so everybody knows, put it on Channel 37, just so there's full disclosure of what's gonna happen. Because I don't know, I agree that I don't think people should be upset about that, because why would a taxpayer that pays, why would you wanna pay for somebody else because they use credit card when you pay by check?
Right.
That doesn't seem fair.
If we're putting that notice out 90 days out, for us, for the utility bills, we would use it as an opportunity to push the ACH, because that's
Yeah.
our lowest cost
Right.
collections method.
Yeah, because I was gonna ask you what behavior would you like, but I just, I dropped a digit, it's 24,000, not 13,000
Oh.
that we pay a year.
Yeah, because it's about two, those two.
Well,
about
the rec center pays a
2,000.
lot more, as you just heard,
Yeah.
based upon what they pay. And again, a credit card user pays this everywhere else,
Right.
Right.
except for you, because you pay by check for the sanitary.
So, Keith,
I don't know, because, I mean, it's a recurring payment thing, and I don't think they do as much with recurring payments. Mayor was asking if they could use ACH, and that, for us, that's a recurring payment thing. I'm sure they could set that up if they had like a payment plan for a membership, but I don't know if that works so well for a one-time, I want to buy a class.
so Keith, you said Nancy was looking at hers too, because it'd be nice if we could coordinate this all.
Yeah, she said she was
Should be
looking
consistent.
at switching to where she would charge the credit card fees at the window. She already does online, but at the window, they're still running the machine.
And Mayor, do they still, like, somebody can come still pay their ticket at the police window, right?
Yes, sir. Well, for the court, as well as the court, when the court's closed, as well as the parking tickets, but generally, we don't get into credit cards and stuff, you know, for it's $10, you know, the fee, the fine.
But when they're paying a court,
Oh, yeah, if they're gonna post somebody's bond or, you know, pay a waiver, it's gonna be like $120.
and they do use credit card over here,
Yes.
but if they done it during the day, at her counter right now, they wouldn't pay any fee.
Well, and during the day, we can't accept them. We're not allowed to accept them when the court's open.
Right, I'm just trying to figure out though, if they still come in here in the evening and we're
Yes.
saying everything's city, where you pay,
Right,
that's different than what happens across the street during the day.
right.
Well, we have to have her be the same.
Yeah, that's what it's
Because you
important
can't,
because,
you can't have, well, first of all, you can't have difference in one department, you can have different times you pay, you get paid, charged differently. That's-
Right, yeah, well, the city alone, we need to be consistent. I believe that she should be the same, but.
Why wouldn't she want to
I'm
be?
just,
Well, she-
Yeah, her costs gotta be.
I think she wants to be already. She's just
Right.
working it out.
Well, why don't we find out, Mike, if you can get some information for us, at the next finance meeting, we'll finally pass it, but it sounds like the way it's gonna go is we want the fees to be passed on, we want a certain time period of which the notifications will be given to the public, and then the implementation will happen after that time period expires, but we also wanna use that opportunity to encourage residents to use ACH more, see if you could do it at the rec center, see if the fees can be built into the program. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered, but it seems like we have a direction that we want to head.
Right.
Okay? Any other questions? Anything else before finance? Okay, meeting's adjourned.